Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to No More Covers podcast, hosted by yours truly, Latrice Marie, where all are welcome to tune in every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This show is all about me learning how to be a blessing unto you each and every Friday. I plan on showing you how God continued to heal, bless, and deliver me, how he continued to uncover and unravel the things that were not true that continue to be a stain in my life. With that being said, I pray that you are motivated. I pray that you are encouraged. I pray that this show just continues to light a fire in you that will be the much needed change in this world. All about me learning how to be a blessing unto you. Hello, hello, hello. This is No More Covers podcast, special edition. First of all, I want to say thank you to all listeners. Know that my heart is truly not only with, but for you. On this day, I'm excited about another opportunity to come before you and be transparent. This episode, you guys, is something that I pray not only that you hear with your ears, that you open your heart and receive a message of love, of joy, of sincerity, a message that will begin to transform and renew all of the things that we have gone through in the past to be used for our good. I believe that all the promises continue to be yes and amen, not just for me, but for you too. So on this episode of No More Covers podcast, I want to entitle it something that has such a significant difference now in my life. This show will be called Bells and Whistles. Bells and Whistles. Once again, bells and whistles. And so instantly when we begin to hear that for so many people all over the world, all over the land, people will automatically begin to think of this message in this title and have a joyous feeling. And ultimately, that's exactly what I want this message to do. I want you to pause for a moment before I even begin and just ask yourself, what are the images? What are those strongholds? What are the words that we've allowed to not only be spoken over our lives, but just begin to take root in us? Those things that begin to bind, hinder, and attack us. Those things that begin to have us beginning to doubt the fact that the Lord called us fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are the works of his hands. And remember that you are indeed the work of his hands. So what are those things that are taking place or words that you have heard over time that has just begun to allow you to pause and begin to doubt those things that the Lord has spoken over you? What are those things that bring about a darkness or a change of emotion or reaction within you? What are those things that have just not only, maybe it's not only hindered you, but those things that have brought about a generational curse that maybe some of us have not been aware of? So once again, when it pertains to me, it comes back to this thing that was spoken over me years ago. Bells and whistles. So for those people that know me, they may be saying one or two things like, come on, Latrice, let's go. And then there are going to be some that will say, no, this is honoring something other than who you are. But I believe that the Lord made me a mouthpiece. He called me a whistleblower. And what I want to do is I want to just begin to speak and allow you to realize that all weapons that have formed, they will not prosper when it comes to you and your good. What I want to encourage you to do is to rise up from whatever situation, whatever word that was spoken that allows you to experience defeat. And I want to ask you to begin to challenge not only it, but your own mindset. We want to walk out with a renewed mind, which it should bring about a sudden and a radical transformation in us when we begin to call those things that seem to be hidden in the dark and we call it to the forefront. And for me, it starts with bells and whistles. And for me, I know it's not going to be easy for you to imagine exactly where it is that I'm coming from when I continue to speak those things, because I have declared and decreed that this thing shall not work. I have told myself time and time again that it's not enough for me to speak it. It's time for me to get up and walk into it. Those chains are no longer hindering or holding me back. And so when I begin to see myself free, when I begin to ask the Lord to loose those things on earth as they are in heaven, I want to see not only myself, I want to see you free. So what are those things that hold you back? And so before I begin, I have to take a step back and I have to fill you in and what's triggering this move, what is allowing me to be so free and just allowing me to be able to celebrate a freedom and a release from those things that tried to hinder me. Those things that would have me doubting and having me believe that I had nothing to share. Those things that allowed me to feel as though the Lord was leading me to do a podcast, but then I said, hey, I don't listen to podcasts. I'm not equipped. I don't have a PhD. I don't even have an associate's degree. What is it that I can share with the world? And the Lord told me simply and plainly, you can share you. Each and every one of us is created in specifics. We are created with a goal in mind, a purpose that I believe He calls us to. And so if He calls us to it, He's going to bring us through it. You don't have to have the right words. You don't have to have even the right quote-unquote education. The Lord will fill your mouth when you come and you realize that, Lord, I'm empty without you. I am your vessel, Lord. Fill me up until I run it over in your strength, your joy, and your wisdom. Give me words to edify you and just continue to bring you glory and just begin to be used for someone else's good. So for that reason, I get so excited. And so here it was a couple of years ago. Of course, I was married at that time, and I'm currently still married. But here it was a couple of years ago. I remember at one point in time, me and my husband got into an argument. And I remember I used to ask him, why are you always looking at other women? Why do you do this not only in front of me? There will be times when my family members have been around and you have been caught staring maliciously at other women. And of course, at that time, all he would do was deny it. And then I think it was months later, we got into an argument, totally had nothing to do with it. And then at that time, I believe he had a boldness that he wanted to share. And he said, remember that time you asked me why I'm always looking at other women? And he said, it's simple. He said, I believe that it's just like when you have a car and it's the same model by the same maker. And he said, one of those models may have all you want. It's got all the bells and whistles. And he said the other one, on the other hand, is just the base model. And when it comes down to it, she, being the other person, she has all the bells and whistles. And I think that was one of the most hurtful things ever. And at that time, I believe that there was probably a blockage that didn't allow me to show it outwardly, but that was very hurtful. But I was excited because that was a hurt that was shared between me and him. It was something that was said in the privacy of our own home. And for years, I began to grow. There's different things that I've been able to go through that didn't cause me to have like a trigger reaction, a knee-jerk reaction. It just caused me to be strengthened. And I'm thankful that when you have the Lord on your side, who can be against you? And so the answer, of course, is no one, right? But at the same time, it could be everyone. It could be those people closest to you. But the Lord just continued to renew my strength. He continued to remind me of where I had my identity. And so for that reason, my identity wasn't found in my marriage, nor was it found in my husband. And so for that reason, too, I was able to begin to walk freely. I was beginning to realize that I always had to be circumspect before the Lord. I had to lay out prostrate. I had to constantly be in my word. I had to constantly be fed. And so that way I can go on. I could continue. It was a process of suffering. It was a process that allowed me to remain humble. And I thank the Lord that was not the end, that was not able to crumble me, which for a lot of people it would have. And so, just like I said, that was years ago that those remarks were made. And so here it is, when me and my husband separated, I felt like everything should be good. Now we know as women and even as men, when we begin to wrestle, when we begin to argue, when we begin to war against one another, then we are not surprised when bad things happen or when you feel as though that person is attacking you. First of all, you have to be mindful that we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We wrestle against principalities, spiritual wickedness, and high places. There's different things that we wrestle against. So don't get so caught up on blaming that person. Begin to pray against that spirit that seems to be warring against you. And so for some reason, as we went our separate ways, and I was thinking that we were good because he had the car, he had everything he needed to move forward. And I said, Lord, yet and still I would trust you. So for that reason, I always believe. I was very secure. I really meant all the vows that I took because I know my vow is to the Lord first. And so for that reason, that's the reason that I couldn't come out until I felt that he released me. And so what I want to encourage you to do is always to pray before you take any step, before you make any movement. Continue to bow before the Lord and ask him to be not only your God, but your guide to just continue to order your steps. And so here it is, we separated and we were attempting to go our own way. We were, as I would like to believe, we were both praying for healing and for the Lord to speak and whatever it was that the Lord was going to have. I would like to believe that we both were truly seeking him with due diligence, knowing that the Lord is a rewarder to those that do. I would like to believe that that was what was taking place, not only physically, but spiritually or in our hearts. I would like to believe that we were all seeking the Lord. But as the Lord just continued to allow me to see the fiery darts that were aimed for me, when he continued to allow me to see the things and the attacks that were going on, think it not strange. But when you begin to see your trials and tribulations as also places where glory will be revealed, it begins to change the way that you interact. It begins to change the way that you intercede. And so for that reason, I'm thankful. And so we went our separate ways. And there were different attacks that were taking place, and that is not my focus. Because once again, I believe that I am here to share love and to bring joy. But there were different things that were trying to take place, and I began to realize that every time I try and come up against and I'm warring and I'm praying and I'm not sleeping and all these different things are taking place, I begin to realize the enemy cannot defeat me because it says so in the word, and I know the word pertains not only to me, it pertains to you. So I could not be defeated by the enemy. So what he will do is try and just distract you and detain you. He will begin to try and take all of your energy and just pull it to the point where you feel like you have nothing left. He wants to leave you drained and dry. But even when you feel as though you're broken, the Lord has a way of just continuing to master all the pieces that you are and put them back together stronger, bolder, and better than they were before. And so for that reason, I am excited. Anytime that you know that you can come into the presence of the Lord and you can remain naked and you can know that there's safety in his arms, you don't have the same worry. I was just listening to Sarah Jakes Roberts, and I absolutely love her, and my friends know it. So I want to stop for a moment and say thank you to my beloved friend. You always hear me talking about her, Erica, because she knows that I love Sarah Jakes Roberts. Not that she's my idol, but I get it, and I understand that there's something different when you've gone through suffering, when you've gone through a tremendous hurt. And I'm thankful that I was watching something from her today. But in saying so, I have to take a step apart, just to set aside and just begin to say thank you, Erica. Because here it was, she gave me a book called Woman Evolve. And when she gave it to me, my hand was just trembling. I knew there was something important. There was something that I needed that was going to be found in this book. And I found so much wealth. I found so much treasure. I found so much value, not just in it, but in me too. And so here it is today. I was listening to a word, and Sarah said something that was so powerful. And she said, we have to be careful because oftentimes we begin worshiping worry instead of worshiping God. So I'm telling you right now, stop worrying, trust and seek God with all that you are. Know that he knows all about you. She said he has the GPS to where you are, not just physically, but spiritually and emotionally as well. And I believe that it's only him where he can breathe fresh life, fresh wind over you. And so for that reason, just if you can't do anything else, even if all you can do is lift your hands, I encourage you to do it and to do it right now. And so here it is. I don't think it's been all that often that I've mentioned her, but I love her so much. And although I'm not connected with, I feel like I'm connected to her. So just jot that down on your calendar and remember that Latrice said it right here on No More Covers podcast.
We are back again. Yes.
It's your boy Dion.
And I'm Rome.
Together we're your
godparents, and you are listening to MMI Talk Podcast. Yes. Well, over here we promote manifestation, motivation, and what? Inspiration.
What? And doing what?
Being your authentic self. There's no other way to be.
Hello, hello, hello. You are back once again. I'm excited to share this joy, this wisdom, my experiences with you, because I believe that you and I together, we will be breaking chains. So once again, I am excited. Thank you so much, House of Noyade, and more specifically, Noyade Podcast Productions, for always giving me that wow, that that love, that support that I don't feel like everyone out there is getting. So if you at any time feel as though this is your calling, that you have a gift that needs to be shared with the world, I encourage you to work with the numero uno in the industry. Once again, that's Noyade Podcast Productions. And we are back. We've been talking about bells and whistles. And so I believe this has been on my heart. It's been on my mind for the last 3 weeks that this is something that I need to share with the world. Because oftentimes, every time we come into each environment, when we come into each situation, when we come into new relationships, we bring this baggage. Remember that song, Bag Lady? I'm excited about it because me and my son Rod was riding the other day, and of course I do like loud music, y'all, and we were playing that song, and so he was telling me how he felt about the song, and I was like, no, Bag Lady, I look at it spiritually, that oftentimes we're carrying around a lot of baggage from one place to another. I believe that oftentimes we have hidden labels that we have attached all over ourselves that we're still answering to. Pastor Fulmore, I love you. I'm not aware if you're out there listening, but I remember when I went to your church and I was delivered in 2013, you used to always remind me that it's not what people call you, it's what you answer to. So I want you to be real. If you can't be real with anyone else, be real with yourself. What are the things that you're still answering to? What are the labels that are still trying to hinder you and hold you back? There have been things that have been positioned and placed over our lives even before we were born or in the womb. There are things that were spoken over our lives even when we were children, and we're still carrying that baggage. We're carrying those labels of defeat from one place to another. We wonder why when we change everything else, why things remain the same. And the answer is you. What are the things that you are answering to? What are the things that you are believing about yourself? And so once again, I decided that those things that have hurt me in the past, they will hinder me no more. And so for that reason, I can speak to you with ease. I can speak to you with a sound mind and joy at the same time about bells and whistles. And so once again, that was something that was said to try and hinder or to ruin me years ago. And so here it was this year, maybe a couple of months ago, my husband at the time started dating and moved in with someone else. And here it is, he took a picture of this woman and wanted, of course, to highlight her backside and have it on one of my posts where I'm talking about prayer. And he said bells and whistles to show me he was out with someone else. Bells and whistles. And my phone just began to ring and ring because people knew that the hurt that I should have been experiencing or the devastation, But then again, I know that this too shall pass. And what it did not do is it did not hinder me. Instead of me allowing it to cause me to feel sunken, I began to realize that it's a weapon that would not prosper. And so when I began to look at this picture, instantly I just began to laugh because I realized what it was. And at the same time, I realized, hey, I'm not angry. I'm not acting out. It does not affect me because I know who I am. And so if you don't know who you are, I'm encouraging you to begin to go back. Ask the Lord to reveal those things that were used to try and cut or to try and hurt you. Those things that would hinder you from being able to move on in business or ministry. Those things that would prevent you and cause you to realize or even begin to think that you're lacking in some form or some way. Because when I looked at this picture that was intended to humiliate me, because there were certain people that knew exactly what it meant, I began to realize that there had been a release. There had been a shift. It didn't hurt anymore. It didn't cause me to crumble anymore. When I begin to look back, not even just over my life, when I look back at where I was last year compared to where I am right now, I know right now I would rather start fresh. I would rather start at ground zero and continue to build up than to live in a false prison system that never belonged to me. I begin to realize that if you're going to lay next to somebody, you never lay or close your eyes next to somebody that you cannot trust. Somebody that you would never know whether they would try and intentionally kill you, cause you harm or not. These are not the ways, and this is not the plan of God towards us. And so when you begin to believe that not only about me, but when you begin to believe it about yourself, you can move in freedom. You can begin to declare, Lord, I am who you called me to be. And one of the hardest and most sincere prayers that you can pray is, Lord, not my will, but your will be done with my life. Lord, I am your servant. Lord, whatever it is that you would have me to do, Lord, I ask that you speak, because when you speak, I hear. I am your sheep, and you are a good shepherd, and I know this is not the best that you have in store for me. So many people stay and they become distracted and easily defeated because they're caught up in the material things. But what about the things of God? What about his nature? What about his service from you unto him? What about the love that we are supposed to not only receive, but we are to indeed called to replicate in others? What about the life and life more abundantly? Ask the Lord, what are the things that have been spoken and that you have begun to believe that's causing a hindrance in your spirit, that is causing you to be stifled, that's causing you to realize that you're not moving farther than the glass ceilings that have been set for others by man and not necessarily by God? Where is the fruit? Lord, what is it that's causing me not to just abide in you? And so here it is. I have to hit my own self on the hand, because there's times when the Lord said loose. He said release. Let it all go. And I find myself still trying to hold on to certain things. And those are material things. But Lord, I would rather have you. Your presence is gift enough for me. What are those things that we need to let go of? And so here it is. I've been doing this podcast for a year now. February 18th was my anniversary. And so once again, I want to say thank you to everyone on this platform. I want to say thank you to everyone who was willing to listen to this broken girl, who just continued to be wild and continued to allow the word of God to be confessed over my life, over my heart, over my ministry. I want to say thank you to those of you who believe in me and always send a word of encouragement. Thank you, because you didn't have to, but you did. And so for me, here it is. This is the last segment of the show for this season. So based on the things that I'm going through right now, I've been told by my attorney, I've been told by friends and loved ones that I have to disappear for a while, because stalking is real. Those same people that you believe sometimes were called and created to love you, when they don't know who they are, when they begin to wrestle with who they serve, they don't know which one of their masters are, there will be people that will intentionally try and harm and hurt you. And so in order to prevent all of these kind of things from taking place in my life, I've been told to disappear. And this was something that I wrestled with for a long time, because I said, Lord, in this season, I've given up everything. Everything that I own could fit into a small corner of a room. And haven't I lost enough? Haven't I given up enough? But then again, the Lord had already told me, I believe it was November 27th. I will never forget, November 27th. He said he allowed someone to come and cover me in prayer. And she said, the Lord said, if you have to lose everything, don't you worry, because God is with you. And I want to encourage you to be reminded that God is with you. No weapon formed or fashioned will prosper, and every tongue that rises up, he condemns. Remember that. That is our truth. And that our weapons of warfare are not carnal. All you have to do is just continue to remain humble and cast out all fears and all doubts before the Lord. But because this word is coming to me so often, I have to do and respect just that. I said, Lord, I have really only one thing that I feel that I was called to do, that I love to do, that I look forward to do, and that's sharing my life with you all. And for that reason, when I was told, okay, you need to disappear, I was in total disagreement. I was told I have to come off of social media. I have to not even make podcasts anymore, and that was a hard conversation. But when you have a team that is fire as Noye Podcast Productions, they said, we got you. And so we came together with this plan. So once again, I celebrate this first season. Yay, guys! But you're not going to hear from me for a little while. But then I believe that this is not the end. This is only the beginning for us. I refuse to shrink due to any circumstances that I'm currently facing. But what I do have is an uncomparable trust in God, that he never makes any mistakes. And so here it is, I could be talking about all the bad things that have taken place in this time. But what I want to do most importantly is just say thank you, God, for trusting me with this season. And I know that the prayers of the righteous availeth much. So I thank you all for your prayers. And once again, I am excited. So when I come back from what I'm now looking at as a time to just repent, a time to just stay focused and grounded in the Lord, a time to step away and be, maybe some things need to be plucked out, because oftentimes with the word, we come and we already know the word and we're so filled that he can't give us something new. So I'm asking the Lord to refresh in this time, to begin to reveal new things. And I want to speak increase and breakthrough, not just over me, but over you and your household. May the peace of God be with you. And I want to encourage you to seek him. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about a friend of mine named Q that lives in Miami, Florida. And she has the Diamonds International Ministry. And one of the things that she always said, and this is something I want to share with you before I go, those things, once you begin to realize those labels, the lies, the hurts, the plots and plans, when you begin to think of all those things that have been used over your lifetime to try and war against you and cause more doubt than it did joy, I want you to write those instances out in detail. Put the dates, put the names, and then once you have it all written out, and this is something I'm doing too, you write it all out, put it to rest, RIP it, rip it up, burn it, put it in a bottle and send it out to sale so it affects you no more. May the Lord just continue to bless you bountifully every day of your life. Once again, from No More Covers Podcast, this is your girl, Latrice Marie. I'm looking forward to hearing, seeing, and maybe I can get an email or two in the near future. But at the same time, the whole point of this message was to encourage you to flip those things that have tried to hinder you and bind you. And so for that reason, as I began to think about doing this topic, I actually was looking into different schools. Now's the time that we wise up and we rise up. And so what we have to realize is it's not all about us leaning to our own understanding, but gaining more. In this season of lack, or so it seems, I'm expecting huge. I'm expecting more. I'm asking the Lord not only to just breathe new wind and fresh life upon us, I'm asking that we just begin to rise up and ask the Lord, what is my purpose? What was I created for? And because of that, what is it that I need to do? So when I begin to think about bells and whistles, y'all, guess what happened? I got a call from a divinity school, and we talked over everything, and I began to think on all of the different snares and traps and reasons why I may not be able to accomplish such a goal. And then just as that happened, the representative of this particular school began to say, hey, I know there's a lot of different schools out here on theology or seminaries, but let me tell you about the bells and whistles that we offer. And so then I said, Lord, I know you're speaking directly to me. I begin to pay attention, and I'm asking that you do the same. Bells and whistles. When I begin to think about that, I think about life. I think about it more abundantly. I think about freedom. I think about peace being upon me. Those are the bells and whistles that I want. Lord, I expect such great things because I know you are a mighty God, that you are able to save and transform. So I don't just ask for things for me. I'm asking for things for you too. I'm even asking, Lord, that you don't just bless my family, friends, but Lord, even cover my enemies, those that feel as though they have to war against me. Lord, cover them. Begin to renew their minds. Lord, begin to transform them. Those are the bells and whistles that I now will be attuned to. Those are the bells and whistles that I'll use and ask the Lord to use it to cover me, because I know the blood still works, guys. So on this day, be reminded to flip and turn those things around so you can walk, speak, and live in freedom.
I just wanted to stop at this time to personally say thank you for joining in with us today. Know that I couldn't be me without you. On this podcast, we are determined to pump love, disintegrate lies, cancel chains, and expose the truth. Here on No More Covers by Latrice Marie.